Good afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime series where we add value to people's lives, happening every Thursday on ebizradio.com. You can catch the Lunchtime series on all major podcast channels and in the marketing and leadership segment. Joining me as per usual, marketing and communications expert and co-host Craig Pagely. How you doing, Craig?
Kevin, I'm great, thanks. Yeah, we are, and we are now in the second half of 2022. Can you believe it?
officially the
Yeah,
second.
officially, yeah.
I'm like, and it's setting records. I know we discuss the weather every time, and I think it's setting records for the coldest winter that we've ever had. I'm like, I don't, maybe it's just me, but it feels colder than it ever felt before.
Yeah,
It's
I'm with you
ridiculous.
on that. I really am, but I actually can't believe that we're genuinely into the latter half of the year now. It's just
Yeah.
insane. And tell me, how are you enjoying the benefits of your new wonderful power backup investment there?
Yeah, Craig. I must tell you, it brings a smile, as you can see on my face, because I was literally going last week. I was having a bit of depression. I was running around here, plugging in stuff and running and putting the generator on and then running back upstairs. And uh, so I was like, I spent some money on this UPS, and it's working. So I'm just happy that I can actually do my work and get through it.
Good.
So
Yeah, that's
we had a
brilliant.
good we also had a good weekend in sport. If I don't if I'm not mistaken, we did
We had a great weekend in sport. It might not have been, well, particularly from a rugby point of view, it might not have been the most glorious game to watch because it really started out with the Springboks on the back foot for quite a duration of the game. But absolutely incredible atmosphere to be in the stadium with 51,700 folk. First time of the full capacity and public participation in international in South Africa in the last 2 and a bit years, but magnificent it really was,
yeah.
and a damn fine British Grand Prix as well. Not necessarily that my guy won, but it's just a spectacular race in all accounts.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we missed it. We had some things we were taking care of, but I heard that it was a fantastic. At least we won, and that's always a good thing.
Yeah,
But I mean,
yeah, it was
I'm always like,
beautiful.
I don't really support the rugby, but when it's like Springbok rugby, then and when it's international, I'm raring to go and raring to support. But also the tennis is in full blow, in full swing, and I'm kind of going, man, what hour can I just take off to go and sit and watch some tennis? Because I love the tennis, and I'm curious to see because there's some new young sort of kick-ass tennis stars like really making name for themselves.
Yeah,
So I mean, it's going to be interesting to see who's going to be in the final. But I mean, probably the usual
yeah, probably the usual. Yeah,
Novak Djokovic and the bunch.
Nadal probably. Yeah. But what's
Um,
interesting on that point is it's generally only from the middle of the second week that I really lean into the tennis.
mm,
And then then I am fixated as well. But those you know, first week and a bit when all the elimination is happening, yes, sometimes the big brands, the big names get booted out, but it's really into the mid of the second week that I lean in because then the real action starts.
what I like about it is watching the up and coming stars because you can actually start seeing who's really like pushes through and gets to be in the couple of rounds, moving towards the second week of the tennis, because then you can really see how it's that differentiate how the experts like really differentiate themselves from the rest of the crowd, which is really amazing because then it's amazing tennis. Like every single shot is just amazing, and it's like wow, like that you didn't expect that and that and that. So,
Uh,
but yeah, I mean,
there, there's
yeah.
there's definitely a host of youngsters coming through, but what's great about what you've just said as well, Kevin, is if you look at Formula One, the number of youngsters that are really fighting out for respectable positions and point scoring in the sport. And you'll see next week in the Springbok team, there's an entire change to the the team. The squad was announced today. A lot of new youngsters coming to the fore again. So yeah, it's good to see that the games are bringing a next generation of sport through, because considering it, not that we're on a sporting program, but next year is the Rugby World Cup, and we really have to ensure that we've got the depth, both from a physicality and a capability point of view.
Greg, so I mean, for today's show, what are the quick reminders that you can share with our listeners from last week's conversation? Great conversation.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. I thoroughly enjoyed it as well. So I want to reference the report titled Shared Purpose, Strong Cultures Are the Foundation of All Great Brands. As a reminder to the chat last week, the Shared Purpose mini book was published by the Brand Culture Company in 2020 and contains the following belief. And I'll quote this particular paragraph. It's got real value to it. So, shared purpose must inform both the underlying strategy as well as the company's daily routines. This is achieved by aligning both the external, namely the brand, and the internal, namely the culture of a company around its shared purpose, and drawing on 6 distinct levers to bring the cultural framework to life. And it's those 6 levers that I quickly want to reference as the key takeaway. So they're noted as follows, Kevin. The first is leadership. It's about establishing priorities and inspiring employees to reach their highest potential. The second lever is about communications, and this is about disseminating compelling and clear information to attract customers, to galvanize organizational culture, and activate the brand. The third lever is symbolism. It's about developing significance in cultural hallmarks that serve as touchstones of the organization. The fourth being reward and recognition. I know we had a good chat on this. It's about catalyzing employee engagement and performance through incentives and public acknowledgement. The fifth is about environment, creating that physical space of an organization to harmonize the functional, emotional, and self-expressive needs of the employees. And finally, the sixth lever is structure. It's about establishing systems and processes that form the framework for how the organization pursues its shared purpose. And it's great to see the word how there, because this definitely fits into Simon Sinek's model where the how is around structure, process, and systems. And those are the key reminder points.
And if you have missed it, go and check it out on the YouTube channel. The Lunchtime series, we post every week, and every Thursday you can catch us live on eBiz Radio. Fantastic conversation we had, Craig. But I recall you said we were going to discuss the topic of Cannes Lions today. And while I know what the Cannes Lion Film Festivals is, what is the difference between the two festivals?
Yeah, good question, Kevin. Cannes Lions, Cannes Festival versus the Cannes Film Festival, very, very close, but some significant difference. So let me quickly get some context in place here. So according to good old Wikipedia, founded in 1946 and known as the International Film Festival until at least 2003, the Cannes Film Festival is an annual film festival held in Cannes, France, which previews new films of all genres, including documentaries from around the world. And participation here is generally by invite only, and it's reserved to film industry professionals. And as you know, every year there's one hell of a fanfare relative to the International Film Festival, or Cannes Festival. Cannes Lions International Festival on the other side is the Festival of Creativity, which was actually inspired by the International Film Festival, when a group of worldwide cinema screen advertising contractors got together, and they felt that the makers of advertising films also deserve to be recognized for their efforts. And the first film festival took place in Venice, with 187 film entries from 14 countries competing. The Lion of Piazza San Marco in Venice was the inspiration for the Lion Trophy, and the second film festival was held in Monte Carlo, then came back to Cannes in 1956, and after that the festival took place alternatively between Cannes and Venice.
Well, Craig, I mean, I didn't know that this was initiated this long ago.
Believe me, Kevin, nor did I. And particularly around the Cannes Lions International Festival of Creativity, launching some 68 years ago. I genuinely did not know that. I know for as long as I've been in the industry, it's been around, but I had absolutely no idea that the brand's 68 years old.
Yeah, no, that's pretty old. So what actually happens at the Cannes Lions International Festival of Creativity, Craig?
Okay, Kevin, a lot happens. all the good things and some bad things, yes, as with any industry event. But it includes the likes of activists using the platforms as a stage to get their messages across, and the anti-fossil fuel cause really being one of the causes that came to the fore this year. But we learned the following from a really great article published on the 22nd of June by Julia Wilkinson, who's a contributor to entrepreneur.com, and she covers this particular question of yours in explicit detail in the opening section of the thing, at least the article, which is subtitled "Everything You Need to Know About the Cannes Festival." So the last in-person festival, which we probably all expected would have been during COVID or pre-COVID era, so 2019. The festival is attended by individuals from businesses, advertising, and marketing industries around the world. It's a great fun environment, great engagement with attendees, listening to various panels, discussions, workshops, and seminars, which are all led by industry experts. And it's hosted across different locations across the precinct within Cannes. Attendees compete for 28 different awards across the various disciplines of branded communication, including the likes of design, health and wellness, outdoor, publishing, and pharma, those just being a few of the categories. And Kevin, the highest accolade is the Cannes Lions Grand Prix Award, which is the most prestigious award for any of the given categories. And the festival centers around councils for progress, which is a really good thing. And they're meant to drive purpose through creativity. And the councils for 2022 included the themes of sustainability, diversity, equity, and inclusion, talent, business transformation, and creative effectiveness. Now, interestingly, apart from creative effectiveness, we've covered every single one of the other topics on our various shows. So really great to see that that's forming the bedrock of creativity. In essence, Cannes Lions really explores the value of creativity in branded communications from a product and service development to the actual creative strategy, execution, and impact on the marketplace, Kevin.
That's great. Yeah, I mean that introduction to the Cannes Lions International Festival of Creativity actually is, I mean, it's a great introduction, putting it out there for us. So thank you for that. Are there any highlights or standout facts that are worth mentioning, considering that this is the first in-person event since 2019?
Yeah, Kevin, definitely. There's some key standout points. There's a couple of articles. The Cannes.com have got some really great points as well. But the first point I want to mention is actually a direct quote from Cannes Lions, which states the following when addressing the festival and what the festival, and why, sorry, I should say, the festival actually matters. So the definition of creativity is challenging all the time. It is no longer confined to the art of storytelling. To create meaningful connections with consumers in this disruptive and disintermediated world. Communicators are presented with both immense challenges and mind-blowing opportunities. Cannes Lions is where you find the tools to win. Yeah, Kevin, when looking at some of the stats, the challenge was definitely on this year, with many of the categories noting a substantial increase in the number of entries. And some of these insights are noted as follows. So there were 24,464 entries from 87 countries competing in this year's festival. It was also the first year that the Cannes B2B Lion Award was included. And this is really great to see, because B2B is seriously gaining ground as a specific focus of effort within the agency world. There were 415 entries received in this B2B space, with representing 188 companies and 73 countries, substantial. Of the 415 entries, 269 were in the service category and 146 were in the product category. The creative effectiveness line is the only global benchmark of measurable impact of creativity, and it actually saw an 83% increase year on year, with over 250 entries from 30 countries in this category. The creative commerce line saw 11% increase year on year, with 374 entries from 37 countries. And at the end of the festival, Kevin, 826 lines were awarded to campaigns from 44 countries. And what's really great to see is Ogilvy, one of my favorite agency groups. Ogilvy South Africa was the highest awarded South African agency, bringing home a plethora of gold, silver, and bronze lines, and also 7 other shortlist lines. And most importantly, South Africa had 12 jurors represented on the judging panel over the period in question. I've lost your audio, Kevin.
Oh, there we go. Sorry. So for a layman person like me who really, is not involved in this world, what is this giving me? So, when I'm winning one of these awards as an advertiser, as an agency, as a what is that doing for me? Is it creating credibility? Is it putting me in the foreground of saying, yeah, you should be working with me? What is winning an award like this do for you?
That's a wonderful question, Kevin. So first and foremost, yes, you answered part of it yourself, where it absolutely gives you credibility. So firstly, it's an opportunity for brands to work with creative agencies to really test the capability of understanding the end-to-end spectrum of developing a brand, developing the communications, getting consumer engagement, whether it's B2B or B2C, ensuring that there is brand take up, that the loyalty is in place, that the product is positioned correctly, and that the communications are compelling, believable, sincere, honest, and address certain themes that really are measured, and I mentioned those early on, the themes of sustainability, diversity, equity, inclusion, talent, business, creative effectiveness. All of those measures are critical in delivering good communications that are good for the brand in question, that are good for the teams that work on it, and are good for the agencies that support it. So an award won, whether it's a gold, a lion gold, silver, or bronze, even a shortlist, is a great acknowledgement for any agency individual working on a brand that is recognized at these ceremonies, and this being the epitome of creative effectiveness.
So, I mean, you also earlier mentioned that key themes are addressed at the Cannes Festival. What are the themes that you've come across?
Yeah, absolutely, Kevin. Purposefully mentioning themes because they clear indicators of how the creativity is responding to particular trends, moves, and needs in the marketplace. So there's great coverage on a number of themes emanating from the festivals, but one particular article stood out for me, Kevin. An article is titled "Quick Take: The Ideas and Themes Driving Cannes Lions 2022." And it was published by Sam Piena Taylor, who's a WARC reporter. And WARC is a great source of information. I read content from WARC every day. WARC is the World Advertising Research Center, and they provide articles on advertising, marketing, brands, and campaigns. And they had a particularly good presence and really present great commentary from Cannes. So the quick take starts with the following statement, Kevin. The economic situation, the reaction of marketing, which ad companies are on the up, the new role of commerce, effectiveness, purpose, the cookie, and the metaverse. Here are the 8 big ideas we saw emerging from the Cannes Lions. So again, the platform is the ideal opportunity, at least the festival is the ideal opportunity to aggregate and get to understand what are the key drivers, both from a client point of view and how agencies are responding to it. So let's have a look at some of these big ideas or themes. So the first one was the threat of recession. So recession was a fairly sensitive topic in the various conversations and seminars, Kevin, fueled obviously by the Russian war in Ukraine, and interestingly, by 14 years of historically low interest rates in the USA, which means a very different response to marketing and messaging in that part of the world versus Central Europe, where we've got the war impounding on us. In reality, we're operating in a very different environment that we used to, with brand owners noting budgetary pressures while agencies insisted that the prevailing lessons of the pandemic remain. So brands still noting budgetary pressures, and agencies grappling with how to adapt to and keep in place what they learned coming out of the pandemic. The solution was not to cut advertising spend or halt activities, something that we've discussed at length on the show, but actually maintaining a presence in the market while adapting tactics to the situation. And again, that came out in our resilience conversation 2-3 weeks ago, Kevin. Theme 2 was articulating brand effects beyond sales. So it seems that generally low unemployment rates in the developed market has resulted in somewhat of a struggle to retain and attract talent. And the importance of HR in this instance cannot be overemphasized because there's a big war on for talent now. And what's important here is that brands need to take a position and ensure that they remain relevant to prospective employees. The third theme here is that new giants and next year's beaches. And the word beaches here relates to obviously the beach at Cairns, but each of the key brands sets up their own festival home on the beach where they can host clients, agencies, deliver some of their keynote addresses and things like that. But what was great to see here is Netflix co-CEO Ted Sarandos. He made his debut at the festival, and he confirmed the whole conversation question around Netflix at least adopting an advertising strategy on the platform. The key question there, though, is what this will look like, and actually who will be either the media partner or publishing partner to help the streaming service deliver this proposition. And there are definitely parallels here with the growing trust in that premium publisher space, which are deploying both subscription and advertising strategies based on the high quality content and the data available from the signed in engaged paying users. So again, just getting straight to the end user, eliminating the third party cookie requirements. The fourth theme here was the Festival of Commerce and the creative implications. And yeah, commerce was very much an ever-present theme with the debate on how much creativity and how much commerce will actually sit together. It's almost the brawn and the brain approach. And to quote, all kinds of loop closing capabilities that Amazon and several other major retailers have pioneered stretch across the internet and beyond. And here, Kevin, the targeting, measurements, and the conversation capabilities of online advertising are actually starting to be applied to television, which represents a really interesting creative challenge as teams are now starting to grapple with what creative works in that subset of media for that immediate conversation, because they've now really honed in to understand how to build engagement, traction with clients, and get the conversion in place. But with this instantaneous expectation and adapting that into streaming TV proposition is really an interesting proposition for the agency world.
Craig, what it sounds like is it's a fantastic platform for you to celebrate really good work, have a massive party, and invite everyone to come check your party and see who did the best job, right?
It's very much, particularly for the creative teams that work on some of this great work. It's very much around that, but most importantly, yes, celebration is in place, acknowledgement. And being able to leverage that for future client workers is always a key priority. But it's very much around the conversation, understanding where the industry's at, what are the key changes, and what's going to drive the next immediate to medium term future of the industry. And for me, any of the festivals that I've attended to, whether it's the likes of the Cannes or Luries in South Africa, or even Marketing Week in the UK, the conversations open robust discussion, and that's really what draws us into debate and discuss what is or isn't going to move the dial in delivering great communications and campaigning.
And the fact that they're holding people responsible, Craig, I think that's also, or at least, are you accountable to sustainability and taking a greener approach? Do you work with brands that are looking after the planet, or are you still one of those agencies that sort of just by the by just do it for the money? And I think that's what's beautiful, because it's pushing the agenda as well, and it's really keeping people accountable to the planet we live on.
Accountability is a key priority of the festival. There's no doubt about it across the spectrum of those measures, Kevin. But you talk about sustainability, so it's a perfect segue into theme 5 here, which is actually decoupling of brand purpose and sustainability protests highlight the urgency of the problem, and this is really a conversation that they could spend an entire day talking about at Cairns. So the topic of sustainability took on a certain maturity this year, and rather than the rush towards pivoting a brand's purpose towards sustainability, sustainability is a broader, deeper topic that is better dealt with outside the individual brand's purpose. And that is absolutely true and on the money. The prevailing sense, though, is that across the festival, that sustainability is now a serious topic with organizations far beyond, within organizations, I should say, far beyond the marketing department. And that is vitally important.
Yeah.
The sixth theme year was the Effectiveness Award, showcasing stunning work, but does it look like other advertising? And this was quite a contentious point here regarding the risk of advertising just being seen as supply chain adaptation and not actual effectiveness driving the creative. And I think this is a conversation that's going to hold its ground for a while still. The author of this particular article felt that if you can actually turn supply chain enhancement into marketing activity, that in itself is a pretty clever idea and warrants the acknowledgement and award that comes with that. The seventh and a topic that obviously is going to prevail for a while still is the metaverse confusion grows alongside the hype. Whilst the belief is that there are currently few opportunities to bring in revenue from the metaverse activity, the future potential is obviously significant, Kevin. And a key standout on this hot topic is that there are quite different views and understanding of the word metaverse, and the key difference being the crypto true believers on one end and the video gamers on the other end. And then lastly, the eighth theme is underreported depreciation of the cookie. Amazon had significant presence, and they made a big announcement that they were supporting Trade Desk's Unified ID 2.0. And again, for the listeners who don't know this, the Unified ID 2.0 or UID 2 is a non-proprietary open source framework, Kevin, that lets advertisers, agencies, ad technology companies, and ad publishers selling advertising to actually interoperate together in advertising workflows without third-party cookies. And this is a space where Netflix potentially has a huge opportunity to play, getting right up close and personal to the subscriber base. And Amazon gives serious credibility to the post-cookie solution, placing UID2 in a position to become the default solution for many businesses that actually use the Amazon Web Service. And those are the 8 big themes emanating from the Cannes Lions 2022, as represented by our walk reporter.
Craig, I mean, a lot of it, really just I don't understand, and kind of like it's you speaking like advertising world and marketing world, and I'm like, but what is interesting about it is it's still, it just goes to show you, the fact that they're taking metaverse, for example, into consideration, and what could potentially be or what could potentially come from that is, again, bringing us back to that conversation on those jobs that are still to be created that we're not even aware of are still going to be happening, that come out of the future, and the future of AI and how that influences how we work with AI. It's fascinating to hear that it's being considered at that level, and there's built an awareness that's created even with an award ceremony like this.
It's great that you pick up on that, Kevin. Yeah, and you talk about the jobs that are still to be created. I think the creative world, including the likes of the technologies that support the creative world, is very much where the beginning of some of those jobs are going to come from. And again, the likes of just really, it is about performance marketing. It's about understanding creative effectiveness, and the cookie was a critical component of the measurability of success in that space for so many years. And with the protection of personal protection of information coming about, and the need to adjust to elimination of third-party cookies, the fact that the depreciation of the cookie is such a critical component in the conversation is right. It needs to be there, because measuring effectiveness comes about on understanding where to, how to, and who you're talking to.
Why I mentioned this is because I find I'm a complete TikToker. I absolutely love TikTok, and I follow an AI bot who has its own TikTok channel, and the AI bot looks like a human and speaks like a human, and tells you that it's an AI bot that was created, and it's going to find sources of information on how AI can support humans. And here's a great website to go to, and then it tells you about stuff. So it's already happening in real life. It's really happening in real time, which is really cool. It's interesting to see that eventually we're going to be speaking to robots to the point we don't know it's a robot.
TikTok actually had an incredibly important part to play in Cannes festival this year as well, and we can focus an entire show just on the takeout and insights gained from the TikTok point of view. But one of the really great things that I read is how TikTok is the enabler of understanding these micro communities, and that's where the brands really need to be focused to understand how in that instance a micro community can be created, and how do you engage with that community, and what does that what does that community want, need, and use. It's phenomenal to, there's always been a segmentation around personas, but now when you get under the skin in this real-time instant world of new communities being created at the push of a button, another vitally important part for the creative world to understand.
Yeah, it's amazing. Craig, so as we end the show today, what can you share with us, share with the listeners as key takeaway for the conversation?
Yeah, Kevin, I want to pick up on the notion of the themes. So in addition to the points discussed, as noted by Sam Taylor from Walk, I want to close by summarizing 6 key festival themes, which were specifically published on canneslions.com. And it's important to note these themes are not just once-off set of principles that disappear as the creative world actually prepares for next year's festival, Kevin. But they indeed, for me, they become the bedrock of the minimum approach to performance and achievement in driving the respective brands that they represent to grow while achieving the high standards of creative excellence. And the 6 key themes are noted as follows. Again, you'll see the themes coming to the fore as we've discussed them in our various shows. It pays to be green, theme number 1. Agencies need to consider how brands can deliver on sustainability in a more authentic and impactful way. Theme number 2 is represents the underrepresented. And agencies need to improve the translation of diversity, equity, inclusion into their creative work. Theme number 3, a renewal focus on talent. And agencies really need to understand and support the industry's ever-changing approach to serve the talent of tomorrow, which, if you look at the previous point around equity, inclusion, and diversity as well. Point number 4, at least theme number 4, is Ready Player 2. And here, agencies need to formulate their solution on how to balance big data, tech, and creativity. Theme number 5 is reframing creative effectiveness, ideas as investment, which is what they need to be. Agencies need to work with their clients in learning how to measure the value of creative activity in a much more effective and efficient way. And then the final theme coming from canneslions.com site here is reimagine, reinvent, and rebuild. It's time for a factory reset. So finally, and probably one of the most important points for me, Kevin, is that agencies need to define and implement how creativity can support large-scale business transformation, something that every brand is looking for. It's not just about a product, it's not just about an incremental move, but large-scale business transformation. And those are the key themes from canneslions.com, but also the key takeaway points for our listeners today, Kevin.
I love that. Reimagine, reinvent, and rebuild. I think it's today. Today's the day, Craig. So we're recording on what are we recording on the 5th of July, right? And this will go out this week. But today is the day that the Hadron Collider, the CERN's Hadron Collider is going to be activated, and
Oh, wow.
things are gonna be changed and reimagined and reinvented, and we're going to have some crazy Mandela effects happening, I'm sure. So we should do a show about that, Craig.
I think we should actually.
on that note, Craig, what are we going to have in store for next week's conversation?
Yeah, Kevin, I want to pick up on a conversation that we've actually not discussed before on the show, and that of the buying power of, let's call it, the silver economy, which is the 50 plus market, and this entire segment has been ignored by brands all around the world. And just to set some context here, Kevin, according to the AARP report, the 50 plus cohorts in the USA alone is in excess of 117 million people, representing some 35% of the population. And to cite just one example relative to this population, and this is a bit of a taste of what we're going to discuss next week. The 50 plus crowd will spend an estimated $84 billion on tech products by 2030.
Holy cow.
Definitely not a segment to ignore.
Exactly. Well, good. I'm looking forward to that conversation. That's going to be interesting. Craig, thank you so much, guys. If you want to catch the Lunchtime shows, it happens every other week on eBiz Radio, or every other day at least. And the marketing and leadership segment happens every Thursday at 12 on ebizradio.com. Catch us live next week, and we'll chat to you soon. Thanks, Craig.
Thank you, Kevin. Look forward to next week.